UFC 314 is coming up in a few days, and I'm giving my final predictions for the full card. I'm torn on a lot of these fights. A lot of these are like pick'ems. I'm going with a few underdogs, but getting straight into it. The main event, Volkanovski, Diego Lopes. Now, I want to pick Volk just off of his custom shorts, but I'm going to stick with my pick. I'm going Lopes. I made an in-depth video, or actually two of them, but one of them I made yesterday, much more recent. I'm sticking with Lopes, and just to keep it simple, I think that Volk gets hit a little bit too much for my liking, and I think Lopes is much more powerful than the guys Volk has fought in the past. Obviously, you have Ilya. I think Lopes is just as powerful as Ilya. I really do. I think that his power is unreal, and Volk has a good chin, but he has a good enough chin to not get knocked out by guys like Holloway, like Yair, guys like those. Lopes, I do think, is going to knock him out, and I don't think that Volk is going to have success taking it to the ground. I think Lopes has good takedown defense. I think it's going to be striking. I think Volk is going to have a ton of success until he's not. I think he's going to be landing the jab, landing the leg kicks, but I think he's going to get knocked out early before he could build off of anything. I think Lopes is going to win by a first-round knockout. I've always kind of leaned towards Lopes in this matchup. I'd love to see Volk get it done. Even though I love Lopes, I have to go with Lopes. First-round knockout. And yeah, it sucks that I think that we're going to see Volk out cold again. I don't know where he goes from here. If he loses, if he wins, great. He's top 3 of all time. This would be one of his best wins ever, but I'm going to go with Lopes, in my opinion. Moving on to the co-main event, another one I'm torn on, Paddy Pimblett, Michael Chandler. This is tough for many reasons, because it's tough to pick Michael Chandler in any fight because of how low his IQ is and how he fights. And Pimblett, I don't think is that good, to be honest. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's going to become a champion. Also, Chandler is old. He's like 38, 39. He's not in his prime. We saw that in his last fight. Now, how I think that this fight is going to go, I think Pimblett could submit him. Definitely possible. I get, Oliveira didn't submit him. That doesn't mean Paddy can't submit him. I don't think it's going to be super easy. I think on the feet, Chandler is the better fighter. I think Pimblett is much bigger, though. I think Pimblett is going to try to slow down the fight, kind of like how we did against Bobby Green. You know, Green's more of a counter striker, so he just stayed on the outside. I think he's going to do a similar thing. If this was 3 rounds, I definitely would pick Pimblett, but his gas tank is awful. We saw that against Ferguson. His gas tank was horrible. He was gassed, done in the third. He still was able to win it, but still, that's Tony Ferguson. You know, at, 40 years old, 38, something like that, completely washed. Pimblett, I just don't think his striking is that good. I don't think Chandler's is that good either, but we've seen him go toe-to-toe with great strikers. He's more proven, but he has such a low IQ. It's very tough to say, to be honest. I think what it comes down to is Michael Chandler able to survive the first couple of rounds and then Pimblett gasses? If that's the case, I think Chandler will win if this makes it out of 3 rounds, I say. If it goes to the 4th, I think he gets a TKO. But I don't think we're going to see patient Chandler. I think him fighting patiently was stupid to do against Oliveira, but he should do it against Pimblett, because if he's able to gas out Pimblett, I think he could really win the fight, in my opinion. I think he gives Pimblett, I think he could finish him definitely in the 4th or 5th round, maybe like a standing TKO. If it's a submission, though, I definitely see it going to Paddy Pimblett, probably early. I think maybe he drops him on the feet, because Chandler, he has a good chin, but he is, he's able to be dropped. He doesn't get knocked out that frequently, but he does get dropped. I could see him getting dropped and then Paddy jumping on him, but will he survive? He's not going to fight like he's a man who has to survive. He's going to go into the fire, and I don't think that he's going to knock out Paddy. I mean, he wasn't able to knock out guys like Gaethje, who's pretty chinny, Oliveira, who's kind of chinny a little bit. Paddy Pimblett, he has a good chin. I don't think he's getting knocked out. I don't even think he's really going to get hurt. Maybe in the first round if it does happen, but still, it's so tough to call this fight. I am probably going to lean Paddy Pimblett. Even though he is unproven, I think the Bobby Green fight was kind of a fluke. It was a weird situation. Bobby Green, horrible move, going for a takedown. I get he slipped. It was kind of weird. But Chandler is the type of guy to do that. He's the type of guy to go for a takedown. So I am going to go Paddy Pimblett. I just can't trust Chandler. It's a 50-50 fight, and I think that he's kind of washed. Paddy Pimblett, he has plot armor. They want him to win. Usually the guys that they want to win usually win. And this is one where it's hard to do like a specific breakdown for it because Chandler just doesn't fight like how he's supposed to. I'm going to go with Paddy Pimblett in this one by a submission, probably like a second round. I could see just Chandler throwing himself into submission, to be honest. But yeah, I'm going to go with Paddy by a submission. Moving on to Gene Silva versus Bryce Mitchell. This is very tough to call. The odds don't show it, but I think that this is a pick'em. I think Bryce Mitchell, he's a very good grappler. We all know that. He held down Ilia Topuria. He's very good. Dan Ige, Edson Barboza, multiple people. He's a very talented grappler. Gene Silva has questionable takedown defense. Charles Jourdain took him down multiple times. Wasn't really able to hold him down. But Bryce Mitchell is such a better grappler. And on the feet, I think Bryce Mitchell is good on the feet. I know people just think of him getting knocked out by, or he didn't even get knocked out, getting dropped by Ilia, getting knocked out by Josh Emmett, which it's a bad look, to be honest, given Emmett's last performance. But in those fights and his 2 losses, Ilia, he said he had the flu when he had it, which I believe him. I don't think he would lie about that. Josh Emmett, short notice. He wasn't at his best, I don't think, for either of those. I think he's going to be at his best for this one. I think he's very motivated. I think Gene Silva, Bryce will be able to take him down. And I think the only way Bryce Mitchell loses this fight, and it's very tough to call because if he loses, and I get this wrong, because I am probably leaning towards Bryce Mitchell, it's going to be by brutal knockout, like within the first 2 minutes, like it was against Josh Emmett. If he doesn't shoot early, within the first minute and a half, he's probably going to lose. I think that him boxing or striking with Ilia is much easier than Gene Silva. The reason, and he was landing really good shots on Ilia Topuria, really good performance, I think, by him, especially in the first round, even though he was losing, but still, it's Ilia, former champion. You have Bryce Mitchell, right? When he's facing Ilia, it's mainly in the boxing range. He can get close to him, get the takedown. With Gene Silva, he's more bouncing around, fighting at range, and then just blitzing in super fast and knocking you out. I think that's a lot harder to deal with on the feet for a guy like Bryce Mitchell, who's not super fast with his style. But I think he's not going to get knocked out early. I think his chin is decent. I don't think he has an awful chin. You know, Drew Dober, I get it was up a weight class. Gene Silva wasn't able to knock him out, and Dober does not have a good chin anymore. He used to. I think Bryce Mitchell is going to take him down. I think that he's going to be able to control him. I think he has really good control, and I think he's going to win a decision. I don't think he gets the finish because I think that Gene Silva will be able to survive. I think he may even win the first round, but I'm going to go with Bryce Mitchell. Very tough to call. I've been going with Gene Silva forever. I'm switching my pick. I'm going with the underdog, Bryce Mitchell. And it would be kind of funny if he wins. I just want to see what like people's reaction is. If Bryce Mitchell gets it done, it would be super entertaining. And if Gene Silva gets it done, it's going to be entertaining. Either way, very hyped for this fight. Moving on, we have Yair Rodriguez versus Pitbull. Another close one because we have a Pitbull coming over, I believe, from Bellator, and Yair, super unpredictable. You can never be confident in picking Yair. I know a lot of people hype him up. I don't see the hype around him. I don't think he's that great. I think he's good. I never thought that he was championship level at all. But this fight, I am going to go with Yair. I think Pitbull, he's kind of low output, at least in his last fight, very patient. Old, 37, coming over. They usually do have success when they come over, like MVP, even at an old age. But Yair is very good on the feet, and I think he's much better on the feet. I think he's going to be doing a ton of damage. I think his output is going to be much higher. And I think Pitbull's main path to victory is pretty much what everyone's path to victory is, wrestling Yair, which you probably could do because Yair has good jiu-jitsu, but he has horrible takedown defense. But I don't think Pitbull is really going to wrestle. And the guys that are wrestling Yair are like Ortega and like Volk. I don't think Pitbull is going to be able to do that very easily, especially early on. I think also it is worrisome because Yair did get held down by Max Holloway. Now, he made Max shoot because he was arguably winning on the feet. That's how good he is of a striker. He's not a good grappler. He has horrible takedown defense, but I don't think that Pitbull is the level of grappler as a Volkanovski. I don't think he's going to wrestle. I think he's going to want to make it entertaining. He's mainly a striker, and I think he's going to try to knock out Yair. And I think Yair, he has power. He could knock anyone out with his kicks. I don't think that he's going to knock out Pitbull. I think he's going to win a decision. I'm going to say 29-28, maybe 30-27. But yeah, I'm going with Yair. I am somewhat confident, not really, because it's Yair. Moving on, Krylov versus Dominick Reyes. This is very interesting. Krylov I think is a favorite, like a 2-1 favorite or something like that. I'm going to go with Krylov by a first-round knockout, and here's why. So it's tough because Krylov, he's very good at mixing in the grappling, and even though Dominick Reyes, for the most part, was able to stuff takedowns, I think Krylov still was able to get down Magomed Ankalaev, and he was able to steal the first round from him, and I thought he won the first. He was doing very good on the feet. I think he even outstruck him a little bit in the first. And Magomed, he's one of the best strikers in the division. He arguably outstruck Alex Pereira. And Dominick Reyes, he also is very good. He outstruck John Jones, but Krylov, he's a brawler. He has horrible striking defense. He leaves his chin up. He always gets hit. But he's a brawler. He has power, enough power to knock out Dominick Reyes. I don't think he has like power to knock out Magomed, but he could knock out Dominick Reyes 100%. Dominick Reyes has power too. Krylov has a really good chin though, so I don't think he has enough power to... He could, but I don't think that he's going to knock out Krylov. And I think Krylov is just... I think that he could also take down Dominick Reyes, and Reyes is just too chinny. I think that if they had the same chin, I think Reyes probably would win, but I'm going to go with Krylov. And I think Dominick Reyes actually should mix in his own grappling. I think he's a good grappler, and I think Krylov has been taken down before, but I don't think Dominick Reyes is going to mix in the grappling. I don't even know if he would have success doing it. I just think he should, especially if he gets hurt. I think Krylov gets it done, though. First round knockout, in my opinion. Moving on to the prelims, Dan Ige, Sean Woodson. I'm going to go with Dan Ige by a knockout. Very tough to call. I just think that Dan Ige, you can't finish him. We all know that. The only outcomes are either guy by a close decision, 29-28, or Dan Ige knockout. And actually, no, I'm going to go Dan Ige by a decision. I think Sean Woodson is very good. He's very rangy. We all know that. If Dan Ige fights him like he fought Murphy in the first round, doesn't step back, he is pretty good. He's very good at boxing, and he is decent at closing the distance. I think he's going to be able to, and I think that the power difference is just so big. I'm going to go Dan Ige by a close decision. I think it's going to be like a split either way. It's going to come down to probably like the second round, and I think that they're going to give it to Dan Ige. In my opinion, very close fight. Next up, Yan Xiaonan versus Janaroba, I believe. Another super tough fight to call. I'm going to go with Janaroba by a decision. I was going to go Yan Xiaonan, but because she's such a better striker. However, she gets taken down pretty easily. Zhang Wei Li was able to put her in some really bad positions. Almost choked her out in the first. And she got taken down way too easily. Verna, she's not good at striking. When it's on the feet, she's going to lose. But usually for WMMA, they value control time more for whatever reason. So I think that she's going to probably like win the first, I would imagine. Or maybe, win the first. Another split decision, in my opinion. It's going to come down to the second. And I think they're going to go with control time. I'm going to go with Verna by a decision, 29-28. Moving on, Jim Miller, Chase Hooper. I'm going to go with Chase Hooper by submission. Pretty easy fight to call. Darren Elkins, Julian Erosa. I'm going to go with Erosa by submission. Elkins, too old. Both guys very unpredictable. As soon as Erosa gets on like a winning streak, he always loses. I'm going to trust him, though, to win this fight. Moving on, Cedric Dumas versus Michael Olazejczyk. I'm going to go with Olazejczyk by a late round knockout. I think Dumas doesn't have good cardio. And I think that he's going to gas out like he did in previous fights. And I think he's going to lose in the third round. I'm going to say third round TKO. Moving on, I believe it's Suma. I have no clue how to pronounce his name. But I think I've seen him fight before. I'm pretty sure he's on a losing streak. Mitch Raposo. I'm going to go with the Chinese guy by a decision. Honestly, I haven't watched much tape on that fight, to be honest. Tresean Gore versus Marco Tulio. I think he's a Contender Series guy. I'm pretty sure he knocked out Ihor Patricio. I'm pretty sure he also was a big favorite. I think he was minus 400 or something. Usually, I don't go with the Contender Series guys. They're always favorites and they always lose. However, I don't think Tresean Gore is good, and I think he's the level of an opponent where Tulio can knock out. I'm going to go with him by a first-round knockout. Moving on, the prelim opener, Nora Cornoli versus Haley Cowan. I'm going to go with Nora by a decision. Pretty easy fight to call. She's a pretty good striker. But yeah, that is it for me. Let me know who you guys are going for in the main event, co-main event, main card predictions. Let me know which fights you disagree with and why. These are my prelim picks. But yeah, that is it for me. Let me know who you got in the main event. And yeah.